creature.
What's going on? You are listening to The Prototype, only on ThisWeekInGeek.net. I am one of your many hosts this week. I am Mike, the Birdman Dodd, but I'm not alone as we continue through this adventure, trek, slow walk through the summer of gaming. I'm joined with the man in the command center in Kitchener.
Alex, the producer. We're keeping it one take. Who cares? This is a quick go.
Exactly. Whatever. So this week, as you may have noticed, is yet another edition of The Prototype because the summer of gaming continues across the various outlets, be it IGN, Game Trailers, Xbox, Jeff Keighley, whoever the hell wants to put on a show. Pretty much two kids and a dog could do this right now.
I'm pretty sure there probably is a streaming thing that's two kids and a dog.
Yeah, and honestly, good for them. Donate bits to them. But anyway, yeah, there's been a lot of stuff this week. A lot of stuff this week I was hoping would be more exciting. We are going to talk about the New Games Plus Expo, which featured a lot of Japanese developers, some North American. We're also going to talk about Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics Avengers game that comes out in September. And finally, we will talk about Cyberpunk 2077 from CD Projekt Red, which will be dropping on November 19th for Xbox and PS5 and pretty much any other console you can imagine. Stadia at a later date. So yeah, let's start things off with our initial thoughts of this week before we dig into everything.
Yeah. Quickly, I'll say Pokemon came out with a direct and everybody hated it.
Yeah, cool idea, but I don't know. I might try it. I just don't.
It's 10 years too late. Nobody cares about MOBAs anymore in North America. It's a very big Asian thing right now. It's hit that market really hard. Like they're super into it. It's co-developed.
I would argue that League of Legends is still significantly huge, especially on Twitch.
Well, I'm saying there's no point in making a new one. Like people have found their groove. They know what they like.
Yeah, it's hard to innovate on that formula.
Nobody likes a mobile game being ported to the Switch.
Yeah.
It looks like crap. It plays like crap. The frame rate looks like crap. It's very much clearly made for the Chinese market. It's made by a Chinese company working with, licensing the technology and licensing the brand. It's like they made it for the Chinese market and then said, hey, we should release this worldwide because it's Pokemon. And it's the most downvoted and unliked and disliked video Pokemon's ever put out.
I think the idea for a Pokemon MOBA is cool, but this should have been a launch title for the Switch.
This is not even free. It's free to start. It's loot box central.
Nope. All right, I'm out. Nope.
Yeah. And we're not talking free to play. Free to start means but it's not even freemium. It's free to start. And I looked up what that terminology means. It means you can't beat the game without paying money.
No,
you can play the first little bit, and that's it. And we're done. Like, no. And I think it hit Nintendo by surprise and Pokemon Company by surprise how it's like a 5-to-1 ratio of how many people hate it to like it. And demographically, the people that like it are all in the Asian subcontinent. And everybody that hates it is everywhere else in the world that is so sick and tired of this. This is like when
Command and Conquer came out a couple years ago.
Not even that. This is like when the Diablo game was announced.
Oh yeah, everybody's got phones, right?
Yeah,
my god!
Don't you have phones?
No.
Yeah, this is
mobile
that.
Games suck.
And guess what? That was another game made clearly specifically for the Chinese market, which is fine. But then they tried to market it globally like it's this big thing. Yeah, and it was shit upon so hard.
The only mobile game that I think has any staying power, truthfully, in my opinion, I'm probably wrong, is Pokemon Go, because it's still going strong today. I mean, they still add constant content to it.
It's a casual game that promotes exercise.
Yeah.
Cool.
And
I'm okay with that.
And you can use it with Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. All right, neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Pokemon, neat idea, not great, probably going to suck.
Poor execution, poor choice.
Yeah.
And people are complaining most about how this should have been in that other direct they did when they announced the expansion
Snap?
stuff,
Oh,
and
okay.
then they should have moved Snap into this Pokemon direct. They were touting this as the next big thing for Pokemon. That's how they announced it.
Ouch.
And it's like they totally got their wires crossed as to understanding what the public actually wanted. And then there is conspiracy theories out there like, well, they're saying that to pander to the one market, and that's a possibility. It's probably pretty high because that's an untapped market for them, is getting into China. But because traditionally game systems didn't sell there, they weren't allowed to certain things, but mobile's huge. So they see that and they're like, well, we have potentially 500-600 million people that'll play our game. That's cool.
And
then market it for China.
And there was a recent report, I think, out of Bloomberg saying Nintendo's realizing its mobile market isn't as great as it once was, because it showed with the Nintendo Switch that Animal Crossing did fantastic for them.
Well, yeah, and the sales have gone to nothing on their mobile titles.
Yeah, because nobody plays Mario Endless Runner, nobody plays Dr. Mario. Mario Kart is a joke.
So if they want to do it, market it for China, do it. Just don't pretend that it's a worldwide product people want. They just assume because it's Pokemon, it will sell.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't damage. I feel like they might see this finally as damaging their brand internationally. Like if this came out in China first and people started getting buzz saying, that looks pretty cool, could we get that? Fine. Don't come out and say this is the next big thing.
Yeah. So
when it clearly wasn't going to be.
Exactly.
So that's it for the Nintendo one. You saw how many people were upset online.
Yeah, I saw quite a number of people on my Facebook and my Twitter be like, that looks like crap. Like I said, neat idea, just maybe a little too late, and you'd really need somebody other than Tencent developing this. Now, if you told me the guys who developed League of Legends consulted with you to make a truly effective MOBA, that'd be really interesting. I'd be down for that.
Or, something like that. But it was, or if maybe it looked good and it didn't look like it was a game from 2008 on mobile phones.
Yeah. The next thing that I want to talk about in terms of this week, I had such high expectations for this next one. Alex had me all hyped up for this one. You had me unexpectedly excited for this because I was expecting a Persona announcement, because we just got Persona 4 Golden on
it wasn't
PC.
Just Persona, it was, they had been hyping this up as all of the largest titles from Japan,
like
we did not receive that from any company.
Like we were hoping to see a date announced for Persona 5 Scramble in the West. We were hoping to see Persona 4 Golden ported maybe to PlayStation 4, maybe the Switch,
or more from Yakuza. A lot of people were expecting Namco Bandai to show off the Tales game, which we haven't seen stuff from on almost a year. There were some large titles that people were expecting, to be, even stuff that wasn't going to come out right away, maybe for a year or two, that there was going to be some stuff shown off even from Square Enix. And nah.
Yeah, this was a show where I'd stayed up, admittedly, way too late the night before. And Alex had said, all right, Mike, you got to get up for noon, I think it was. I'm like, all right, fine, whatever. Yeah. I didn't go to bed till 6 a.m. because I'm stupid. But anyway, I get up, I have my good old cup of G Fuel, and I sit down and watch this thing. And they open the show with Catherine Full Body, which is, okay, that's
a game that came out last year, but it's getting a Switch port.
Whoopie-doo. Fantastic game, do not get me wrong. There's even a Persona connection in there.
Yeah, I believe we're getting a review copy of that. So yeah, I got information, like I think we're getting one. So I haven't tried it, so I'll check that out on Switch. I don't know how much it's going to be different than the PS4 version, but
it's hard. Have fun.
It's hard. No, they actually in the video say that there's an easy mode now.
Okay, well, when I played it back on PlayStation 3, I got my ass handed to me. I enjoyed it, but it was hard.
This has an easy mode and a full rewind feature to fix your errors.
Okay, well, that's something
cool. I can play it on stupid mode.
Yeah, I don't know. Just that, you should not have led with that. I mean, a lot of the New Game Plus Expo, I just didn't care, and they showed off gameplay of No More Heroes 3 with Suda. And
in front of it, trolling everybody so hard by covering all the footage. It was brilliant.
yeah, I was like, come on, but
But I get
whatever.
it. That's the kind of comedy. That's the kind of thing he does.
Yeah,
So
that's him.
like not even acknowledging it. Like he spent half the time talking about the video games that he's been playing in quarantine. He's like, I'm going to beat Mario one of these days. And the look on his face, you can see he's so pleased with himself because he knows what he's doing.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's kind of brilliant. I get it. And what a lot of people didn't notice, there's a different, voice actor in Japan there is here. That was the English voice. So the game's done. So I think we're going to see an announcement at
Xbox, maybe.
Nintendo.
Okay.
Because it's a Nintendo exclusive, I believe.
Okay, so
So
be something.
Nintendo, whenever they do a direct in the late summer or fall, I wouldn't be surprised if they announce it then.
Maybe it'll be like a holiday game, maybe, you think?
Because remember, we have no games announced past July's Paper Mario at all for Nintendo.
Yeah, so there'll be something big for like holiday this year.
Yeah.
Then it was just a lot of I don't give a shit about 90% of what I saw.
Yeah.
One of the games I did like, and it's only because I like the style of game now. You're going to laugh at me.
Was it the Pretty Princess one, or was it the
Idle
the
Manager?
one? Idle Manager. That looks interesting, actually.
Yeah,
it's a different style than usual. It's not just static images. It looks like you're doing a lot.
Yeah, it looks like you're managing money, fame, reputation, travel expense. It's basically like Football Manager, except you're managing a pop singing group, and maybe you can date people. That sounds interesting to me. I'm like, all right, why not?
And they had other standard dating games where like they had the harem ones where it's like guys with lots of girls, and they had the girls ones where it's lots of guys. Like what was the one where you're working at like a bar or cafe, and it's like a bunch of demon guys that the girl wants to date?
It's like Cafe Enchanted or something.
Yeah, something. I like that. There's variety. Like, there's plenty. If there's a type of a visual novel or sim out there that you want to play, there is one now.
Yeah,
and before they didn't always get translated. Now they are, so that's cool. They showed off a couple, smaller platformers, a couple RPGs that we've already known were coming.
What was that? Bloodstained 2, Curse of the Moon or something?
Bloodstained Curse of the Moon 2.
Yeah, that's
the sequel to the
Metroidvania one.
Metroidvania one they made as a Kickstarter bonus that actually got better reviews in the main game. So that's why they did this.
It looks really cool. It looks like that HD Castlevania retro.
HD 8. It's basically HD 8-bit is the best way to describe it.
Yeah, it looks really cool. I may actually pick it up, but it's going to be hard as fuck.
Well, there's multiplayer modes. My brother told me there's an easy mode in the first one.
Mm-hmm.
You can enable. So you can enable, I'm not good at platformers mode. And so you get to play as the main guy with the sword. You get to play as
the girl who's
like a priestess that can use a javelin and jump on things. A guy with a sniper rifle and a fucking corgi in a steampunk mecha suit that looks like a train.
Yeah, that was kind of cool.
Did you see his little at the top of the screen? They have like their icons. Mm-hmm. It's just the dog with his mouth open, smiling.
That I missed.
Yeah, I'll send you a screenshot because I laughed so hard. I'm like, you get to play as a corgi. Okay, I'm done. This game is mine. So there's that, and then they showed off Trails of Cold Steel 4. So some games that I know I'm going to play.
That actually made Trails of Cold Steel. Now, you've pitched it to me for the better part of a year. It's got my attention, but I've never seen a trailer for it.
Yeah, so what I should do is I should show you the trailer for the first game because those 4 flow together as one story.
So it's basically like Mass Effect anime. In terms of
pretty much
you have to play one to get the others, really.
Yeah. They'll give you a summary, but like 1 and 2 are like right after each other, and 3 and 4 I believe are right after each other, and 2 and 3 there's like a gap of a certain amount of months. But in that gap, there was a side story game that we haven't got that fills it in. So like there's never like a huge change in time. Like so you can jump in at any point, but like there'd be no point in playing 2 and then 4. You know what I mean? If you're going to start, wherever you start, move forward.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of like other games that really caught my attention.
They showed off a couple platformers like the Giraffe and Annika or something that looks okay. That was like a bouncy sort of old school era kind of platformer. There was
this one game, it looked interesting, where basically it's like retro 16-bit era graphics. You go to dungeons, but if you die, you lose all your progress.
Oh, yeah. That was Sheeran the Wanderer.
That looked kind of cool.
Yeah, that's been done in 3D on the Wii and other things. This is the first time they made it look like a 16-bit HD thing.
Mm-hmm.
I know my brother was super psyched for that one. You get a little ferret that's your buddy that carries all your loot for you.
That's cool.
Then they also showed off Fallen Legion, a sequel to that game. That was the sort of hand-drawn art style RPG one where you saw them going into a room and it's like you can hide or you can jump in and you move on panels. It's sort of like a Vanillaware looking kind of game.
Mm-hmm.
That looked kind of neat. There were a couple other ones. I think the ones that captured us the most, other than the ones we've talked about, were the fight crab or crab fight.
Yeah, that looked pretty cool because
that looked stupid.
Yeah, it looks stupid, but it looks entertaining as shit. Yeah, it just looks weird. You're fighting as a crab with like chopsticks, knives.
The one
spoons.
Crab was riding a seal with a saddle on. And you have a chainsaw and you're cutting each other up and there's like lightsabers and one of them just had a screwdriver. I'm like, oh god, that's the most dangerous one of all. And one guy had rocket launcher boosters and then another one had barbecue lighters.
And it's coming to Steam later on this year and then consoles next year.
Yeah, I think Mastiff's putting out the console version later on. And then they ended it with one that I was surprised because I didn't know it was out already in Japan, and that was Ys 9. Which is the long-running series that has sort of started to pick up steam in the last few years. It looks cool. It's I think the first one in the series that was designed with just the PlayStation 4 in mind. Like, not like it's going to blow anybody away with graphics, but everyone in the past has either had a a PSP version that was designed first, or a Vita version and then was ported to mainline systems.
Yeah.
So this is like, here's a mainline system game.
Oh, I just remembered something, but keep going.
Yeah, so that looks cool. I mean, and the series, you can sort of jump in with that whenever you want. The first two games tell one cohesive story, and you play as Adol, the kid, the redhead that you see in that trailer.
Mm-hmm.
The deal with him is every single game is like a different chapter in his journey of adventures. So one game could take place when he's in his 30s. One game could take place when he's in his 20s and adventuring for the first time. And they're not necessarily in order, right? So it's like you're pulling chapters from somebody's adventures log. So it's kind of neat that way, that every game is telling the story of, like, not Superman, but like the world's greatest adventurer, like Homer's Odyssey or one of those things. Or what's a better example? Like Sinbad.
Yeah.
It's pretty much like Sinbad. Each one is a different tale in Sinbad's stories. And I like that idea. It's a very large world that's fleshed out, because you might play a game and you meet a bunch of characters that are your, second part in your party, and you don't see them again for 2 or 3 games, and they show up and it's been 10 years later, or maybe they show up in another game and it's the first time you've ever met them. Kind of neat how they do that, like non-linear storytelling. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of neat. What was the game that you remembered?
The one that I remembered, and this is something I'm considering getting. I don't know whether I'm going to, because I want to be careful spending, because,
Yeah.
I am. Samurai Showdown Collection from Limited Run Games.
Yeah.
This looks fantastic.
Oh, the physical version. Yeah.
And
it comes with a replica, was it AES cart?
Yeah, of like the Neo Geo cart. Comes with these amazing art. I think this like art book or art cards done by different people.
I think it's a soundtrack and something else too.
Yeah, like it looks really, really nice. And I've never bought anything from Limited Run Games, but I'm very hesitant because I don't like physical. I know, blasphemy. But I just don't. But I may get it. They also announced Neo Geo Pocket Fighters or something. So okay, sure.
So, there's a problem there. There's confusion. They're announcing it as part of a collection, but the collection, or selection they call it, you're not getting multiple games.
You're getting one,
It's individual games. The series they're calling it is, they're going to be releasing a bunch of these remastered games separately as part of a collected series. So eventually there's a possibility they may merge them all together at some point. But they made it sound like you were getting a collection, and here's the first game we're showing in this collection. That's not what it is. We are now making it's like the Sega Ages, right? Sega Ages is a umbrella of all of them. So you are going to have to pay for them individually.
Yeah, that's about what I figured. And I think they run about between $8 and $10 a piece. So
probably, I mean, sure, it's cheaper than buying the cart. And yes, you can emulate. The arguments are always going to be, you can emulate it or you can buy the hardware. You know what? Not everybody wants to do that.
Yeah, I mean,
and especially if we find out, we got to find out if it's M2 handling the emulation, then we know it's going to be perfect.
Yeah, I mean, of all the Samurai Shodown stuff, they also showed Warden from For Honor is going to be
Which
as the last
who
piece of DLC.
cares?
See, I'm okay with this because I like the idea of a For Honor character fighting Samurai Showdown. It's just not something I would have
Isn't
expected.
it 3
actually,
years too late? Isn't the
no,
fandom gone?
no, For Honor's still going.
Is it? I remember people hated it when it came out.
It took a long time to find its booting, and that's the thing. Ubisoft, they'll have really rough launches. Like, for example, Rainbow Six Siege, when it launched, sucked because I played the Rainbow Six games for the story, but now it's this amazing multiplayer game.
Okay.
For Honor started rough because it was unbalanced. And as the community and season updates have kept going, they've adjusted balances, they've adjusted everything else, and they're keeping that alive as a live service. I imagine, I don't know how active the community is right now, but I am happy to see a sword wielding character. It would have been interesting if they took a character from, say, like Soul Calibur, like maybe Sophia or something like that, because she's like the girl character, or maybe somebody else. But that's cool. I'm glad to see a Western medieval fighter fighting against Jubei and all that.
But if I was going to put an Ubisoft character, I would have. You know what I would have loved if it showed it was going to be that soldier, but then the face mask went up on the helmet and it was a rabbit underneath.
Actually, I know what I would have done if I could have chosen an Ubisoft character.
Yeah,
it wasn't a rabbit. I would have picked Edward Kenway, who is the lead character from Assassin's Creed Black Flag, voiced by Matt Ryan, who is Constantine from Legends of Tomorrow, because he's primarily a sword fighter. However, when you put it into the context of Samurai Showdown, you want to keep it within the feudal Japan, it makes sense to go with war.
To go with the chivalry, late Middle Ages, or, before the Renaissance sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, it works. So that was New Game Plus in terms of things that stood out to me anyway.
Yeah, there were some other, there's a lot of visual novel games, a few RPGs. Nothing super big. There was a bit of a disappointment in that people were expecting Danganronpa 4, and all there was we're having a 10th anniversary, a 10-year celebration, and we're putting it on mobile.
I wanted, honestly, the most exciting thing it was that fucking teddy bear thing he's shown.
Oh yeah, it's the bad guy.
They're actually,
without spoiling too much, he's there basically to watch you murder each other.
There was another game that I saw, but I forget the name of it, but I remember the concept. Okay, it was the concept was you are a team of 2 virtual idols, and it's a rhythm game and it's a shooter.
Rhythm game and a shooter.
Yeah, it looked interesting.
It wasn't the Neptunia game. That was like
something like that. Maybe
Musha beat 'em up things. Or were you think there's the one where you're the rat and you're going to the beat?
No. This was 2 anime girls shooting things in what looked like Tron. Is the best way I can
looked like Tron. That might have been the Neptunia game.
I'm pretty sure it was.
Then there was Volta X. That was sort of like the defense game, I guess. That was okay. There were a few other things that went by really quickly, and they showed like little flashes. But and they showed off gameplay of that Fairy Tail RPG based on that wildly popular manga anime. I think it's a shonen one. I had started watching. I've seen about 10 episodes, and I believe I'm getting a review copy. So I better catch up on the 1,000 episodes that are out of that show.
People say the show's really good, so maybe.
So yeah, and I thought at first, I'm like, oh, is it going to be like the Kakarot game where it's like not really an RPG? No, it's a full blown RPG. It's just they showed all the crazy action scenes, but it is a turn based RPG, and it's like they're putting it out as probably one of their biggest releases of the year. So I'd be interested to check it out because I'm a pretty big newbie to it. I'll read up and see if there's anything I absolutely must watch before I play the game. But I get the feeling that you don't have to have played or seen the show to get it, because this is the first time we're getting a big introduction to it in gaming world. So
yeah, so we will wait and see. So this moves us on to Wednesday, which was the Avengers War Table, and this was.
You mean the
episode
Anthem
1.
mouth not Anthem, the Andromeda mouth all over again.
The thing about this, it felt so unnecessary as to take up a whole half hour. I mean,
yeah,
it it felt like you could have just dropped this on YouTube and just let people find it, but I guess they wanted to make it an event because they're like, stay tuned for more information. And
it looks very bland.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little more excited for it now, but not by much. Like to the point where like maybe I want to pre-order it, but maybe not.
I am not pre-ordering it. If we get a review copy, great. I'll check it out, and it could be entirely fun. They did. I don't know. It feels like this was in development. I think it was in development since like 2014.
Yeah, it's been a while. Like it doesn't feel like this feels obviously very disconnected from the MCU, but they obviously want to invoke that feel of it, but it doesn't work.
And that's fine. You want to keep it separate so you don't have to pay licensing actors for their faces and likenesses and all that in the future, 10 years, million years down the line. Sure. It's just okay. Square went with the wrong studio to do it initially. Crystal Dynamics makes single-player Lara Croft games that are, you play one character, you go through one area, it's a slow, methodical game. And they gave them a RPG action team-based attack game.
Yeah, it feels like the next gen evolution of Marvel Ultimate Alliance, which great.
We already got one of those, and it worked fine.
I didn't like it, but
it worked fine for being maybe basically, it didn't mean it was good. It worked fine though. The frame rate here, and they're playing it on a PC or whatever they're showing, it's dropping to single digits. And then we're not talking the stream. When they release their like fully rendered upload, it's dropping to single digit frames.
There was something that I noticed, and I noticed it especially because they were showing an awful lot of Thor gameplay. Very curious how you didn't see Cap, you didn't see a lot of Iron Man, you saw some
Cap's dead.
Kamala. No, he's not, because you see him.
They say Cap is killed in the first act of the game.
Oh, okay. Well,
that was in the intro, and they showed it there.
Oh,
Cap
okay.
died trying to steer the ship.
Oh, okay. I must have missed that.
And that's what. And MODOK kills him by he locks him in the cockpit and won't help him, and then leaves.
Oh, okay. Well,
so you might get Cap back later, but Cap is dead after the first act of the game.
Okay. Well, fuck me.
Spoilers. It's in the trailer.
I guess. One of the things I'm interested to play as Kamala Khan, who plays the new Ms. Marvel. Her powers are weird. She, in her own words, embiggens herself. So okay, cool.
But it looks weird the way everything.
It looks strange.
You know what looks wrong? It looks like it's two different teams that did the graphics. One team did all the backgrounds, all the environments, and one team did the characters. And it looks like they're superimposing one game's characters into another game.
One of the things that I wanted to mention before I got sidetracked there. So during the section that they showed a lot of Thor gameplay. You don't see Thor engage a lot of other enemies other than those big tank-looking things from Ghost in the Shell. And I found that remarkably curious. You're not showing off his real abilities other than like he can do manual targeting. Well, why the fuck wouldn't you be able to do manual targeting of all the things in all the world?
They're advertising features that are expected.
Yeah, and they're like, and you can equip legendary gear and boosters. Motherfucker, I don't want this.
My brother looked at it and said, I don't want this to be another Destiny.
Yeah.
That's all. He openly said that. He goes, why would I want... And he goes, so do you get to walk around the world? I'm like, no. He goes, you don't get to walk around the world. It's just pick and load a section. I'm like, yeah. He goes, that feels like gameplay from 10 years ago.
Well, yeah, because there are like certain areas will be open areas where you can explore. Other areas are very confined and inside. Yeah, it's Destiny with the Avengers slapped into it. And there's these war zones where you and up to 3 AI companions or your friends can join up. And I don't like how they have gear scores. They say there's going to be like no microtransactions. We'll fucking see. Well, no, there are microtransactions, but they're supposed to be cosmetic. There's nothing game breaking. Again, we'll wait and see. It's just, I don't know. I want to like it, but I'm not impressed yet. To look at it from a story perspective,
the voices don't match the faces either.
I don't know. I mean, I'm happy they went with MODOK because he is one of my favorite bad guys. However, every time I look at MODOK, I can't picture him but being voiced by Patton Oswalt because he is a comedy villain in a lot of ways. Yes, he's a huge threat to the Marvel universe. He's been around since like the 1960s, and he has done some terrible, atrocious things. But that's not who you should lead with. I thought when they're in the car, I thought the villain was going to be the Hulk's villain, the leader, and like Thunderbolt Ross, but instead you get this. So I'm curious. Now they do mention they're going to add other heroes and other missions down the road. You get to talk to Hank Pym. Their Nick Fury looks bad.
It looks like I'm trying to think.
It looks like Carlton from the fucking Family Matters show.
It looks like
no, it's Sam Jackson's stunt double circa Pulp Fiction.
It
doesn't
like
look
Bill
right.
Bellamy. I don't know. Like I'm
just...
trying to figure out who the actor is playing it. Like, but it looks. The problem is their mouths. Their mouths are either too big, don't move right. They don't look human. Everything else looks human, and it has the uncanny valley factor. And the mouths and expressions when they're talking or yelling, they're moving weird, like not like how actual mouths move. And it has a very, very Mass Effect Andromeda look.
When I was watching this, I happened to be watching it with my wife Blair, and she's not a big gamer, right? She's primarily a like Switch gamer. She's watching it, and she says to me, "Mike, why do these characters look off?" And I think it comes down to art direction. This just doesn't look like Marvel to me. It doesn't feel Marvel. I mean, some of the costumes are great and cool, and there's some of them are MCU inspired. Some of them are from their various comic book appearances, and that's great and everything. But something about the physicality of the actors and actresses just doesn't feel right to me, and I don't like it.
And my brother made a mention to me. He goes, "Everything looks heavy." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Everything feels sluggish, like you're jumping and it's too heavy." Like, oh, you're right. The gravity looks off.
Yeah, like you look at how fast the game, like say Batman Arkham Asylum to Arkham Knight. Well, I was about to say, you look at Arkham Asylum to Arkham Knight. Batman has a certain heaviness to him. He moves quickly, despite his moves being kind of slow in how he punches, but he can move swiftly when he has to. Spider-Man is very lithe. He's very agile. He moves around the environment very, very quickly. Here, the Avengers, despite all being various power levels, etc., should move in different ways. These ones, you're right, they feel heavy. There's a weird gravity and feel to them.
I like some of the idea that it's you pay once and you're going to get all the DLC for free.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like they had to do that when they realized the game doesn't look done. Like even now, the game should be gold. Should it not be gold if it's coming out in a month and a half?
Well,
or 2 months, 2 months, and or is it like 12 weeks or 10 weeks?
It should be gold no later than first week of August. No, first week of August, because you still have to polish out stuff. But yeah, I mean, I've got reservations about this. I want to see more. I guess I'll make them. We'll probably talk about the next Avengers War Table when that happens in just a few weeks.
Yeah, it just feels very much like they spent $200 or $300 million on something that should have only cost them $40 million.
This is a game that should have come out around Age of Ultron or before Phase Civil 2. War.
It should have been. This game should have come out in 2012 or 2013. This should have been a launch title for the PS4. Because it looks like a mid to late era PS3 game. Some of the lighting looks better, but the frame rate is dropping to like 8 frames per second. And I'm thinking, and this is supposed to be co-op. Could you imagine how bad it is when you have the people logging in with like if it's improperly coded net code, having like 3 or 4 people trying to play on this world where it's crawling to a halt, and this is their presentation of it, which should be on like a PC with the max settings. Could you imagine how bad this is going to look on a standard Xbox and PS4?
Yeah. I mean,
so
I'm not impressed with it.
Unless we get a review copy, I'm not pre-ordering it. I will wait 2 or 3 months till it comes out, till the new systems come out, and there'll be an inevitable price drop. This will not stay full price.
Yeah, I will wait for price drop likely.
And if they think it's going to stay full price for the new systems,
no,
I doubt it, because they said this is going to be one that they transfer forward. You know, you can play, you'll get it for the new systems. Okay, that's nice. I will wait till there's a first sale on the newest system, because then maybe some DLC will be out by then, and at least the Xbox Series X and the PS5 will be able to brute force their way through and maybe get higher frame rates. But if they don't fix that pretty fast, it's going to get blown away, and it's going to be a huge sinkhole, because it went through development hell for years. They picked Crystal Dynamics about a year and a half ago. They realized that they were already blew past their due date, and they had to call in Eidos Montreal to finish the game. to the point where they show it on the website, but everywhere they're talking about it's Crystal Dynamics game. It's not Crystal Dynamics game. Crystal Dynamics game wasn't finished. They had to call in multiple studios to finish it for them. And what does that sound like to you? Does that sound like Anthem?
And Mass Effect and Andromeda? Oh, yeah.
The same bullshit. And what happened there? Things weren't finished. I think we're not getting the finished game. So it looks interesting, and I really, really want to like it. And I'm trying not to be cynical, but something seems off and something smells a little funny here.
Yeah, like ultimately the gold standard for Marvel games going forward for the next few years is going to be Insomniac's Spider-Man.
Yeah, and that's not even close to the property. Like, that's just Sony's baby right now.
Yeah, and the fact that we're getting Miles Morales' expansion within the PS5 launch window.
Yeah, that expansion slash, like,
standalone whatever
standalone expansion game looks better than this. And it costs probably a fraction. We're talking like maybe 20 million, because they already had the engine.
So we will wait and see what happens. And then we'll move on to our last little bit.
Some good news.
To some good news. So this one we're going to be talking about CD Projekt Red's Cyberpunk Nightwire, which was obviously about Cyberpunk 2077, which launches across multiple platforms on November 19th of this year. They showed off some gameplay of this. Reviewers and journalists were able to give their first impressions. We were not included in this, and there is something interesting to note. So
it seemed like it was invite only, and nobody invited.
Yeah, although interestingly enough, this is something that I caught, and I don't know whether it was an intentional slip of the tongue or whether it was meant to give people information. So particularly during Jeff Keighley's presentation about this, where he was hosting it, he was talking about this, and he says, and I was given I was given access via streaming technology, yet doesn't name Stadia.
Yeah, no, it was he got GeForce Now. He said it later on in his stream.
Okay, so that's interesting.
He checked to see if he could say it, and he did.
Okay.
Other people I've heard have looked at other different streaming platforms. I know it's been tested on Stadia, but I think that for the sake of the presentation, they had to make everybody's thing exactly equal.
Okay, so that makes sense.
So they went with that, which is funny because GeForce technology isn't used in the game. They're optimized for AMD.
But this looks pretty good. I mean,
you
can play
and
as
do you know what? But do you know why they did that though? Why they did it streaming? It's not just a DRM thing. It's not just so they can control everybody's experience. It was because every person that played it, all the reviewers, I've watched a bunch now, they're all saying the same thing. They couldn't believe it had no load times. Well, the only way you can do that without playing it on a PS5 or playing it on, on a Series X is playing it using the technology that Stadia and xCloud and GeForce Now have, using those Blade servers. So they wanted to give you a next gen experience on it, because they're saying that there's no load times other than when the only load times are like when you are like forcibly doing something, like if you're going into a menu to do something. But when you're in the world, like no matter what you do, they said there was no load times, no texture pop in, it just worked.
Yeah, like it looked really good from what we saw today. So one of the things that they've constantly been saying is you get multiple different paths through the game, though you do have the same missions, but it changes relationships. There's like Nomad, Corper, and I guess a solo.
I think it was Street Kid they called it.
Yeah, or something like that. So it looks really interesting. It looks really, really, really cool. It makes the world of Night City really come alive. For those of you who haven't played Cyberpunk 2020, you haven't got the Cyberpunk Red Jumpstart kit, which you can get from Artal Sorian and Drive Through RPG. It's a fantastic primer on the world, though Cyberpunk Red takes place in the 2040s, so not quite 77 yet. They showed off a really interesting piece of gameplay, which they're going to use as a major storytelling thing. My impression is it'll be a big chunk of the game in terms of presenting story, but also mysteries and other people within Night City. It's something, I think it's called Brain Dance or something, which
something like Dream Dance, or is it Brain Dance?
I think it's Brain Dance, and the closest equivalent that I can explain to this is there are two examples. For those of you familiar with the 1990s movie Strange Days with Ray Fiennes, it's the process of recording someone's memories. and in all their senses and feelings. So you experience somebody having sex, you experience every sensation that they do. But there's a black market for something called snuff films. In Cyberpunk, they call it flatliners. So in the course of this one, you see a guy making a run at a liquor store or something, and he robs the place, and his friend shoots him in the back of the head. However, you are able to edit this particular brain dance, and as you go through the environment, you see them, you can listen to everything because your cyber ears or whatever records everything, even things that person may not have been consciously listening to. So you may notice, hey, he's carrying this type of gun, there was this radio station playing in the background. So when they go into the liquor store, he holds up the person, you notice above the door there's a security camera. That security camera is showing a feed behind the clerk, because the person recording the brain dance, you don't see your own face unless you look in a mirror. In order to get the person's face, they have to look at the security camera, and you're like, oh,
yep.
So I thought that was really fascinating.
Investigations are going to be very interesting and very in depth.
Yeah, like this is going to blow away a lot of what Batman did in the like Arkham games. It'll be less kind of gimmicky, but it'll be more point and clicky, which is fine. But
there was also I watched a bunch of the I guess media reviewers talk about it, and they were answering questions, and they were correlating, and they were saying something similar. Some aspects were grayed out when it came to creating the characters, but they could confirm that you could change the size of your genitals
and the pubic hair or something,
and pubic hair and size of breasts and all that. But here's the even bigger thing: you can choose circumcised or uncircumcised for the men for whatever reason, and that's on camera, and you can change the size and all this and shape of your penis and all this. And
do you appear naked in the game or something?
You can. Well, you have sex whenever you want.
Okay, that's cool.
And when you meet somebody, like there are certain romance options. Somebody may not want to have sex with you because you're circumcised or not.
Interesting. So
you can get them to come back to your room, and they'll see you naked and be like, I'm not interested anymore. And they can do that. Or they said that it's not even a stake of like straight, gay, bi. You can find somebody who will be like, they like you, but they don't like penises. So if you're like augmented where you don't have a penis, they'll have sex with you, even though you present as a male.
So you can choose your like gender pronouns, right?
I don't know about that. They weren't able to explain that, but they said that there are people that pick you not based on your sexual preference, but based on
who you are.
Based on, I don't like penises. I like penises. I like vaginas. I don't like vaginas. They don't pick based on predefined gay straight roles.
Okay.
Which is, I think, a first definitely a first for a mainstream AAA title. I don't know how far you can get. They said, oh yeah, and in some cases, some people are just sluts. Like that's what they openly say. Like, so some people will just sleep with anybody they can, or they're street workers. But then there are some that are just picky. They're like if you create your character to be a hulky, muscly guy, some people will be like, I don't like those bulky guys.
I already have an idea of the character I want to create for this. So I've been kind of working on this in my head for like a week. Okay. I want to create a gender non-binary but female presenting corporate person.
Okay.
And I want to be just not that sort of androgynous look that kind of Blade Runner did.
Okay.
And
okay, I know what you mean.
Yeah, and I just want to look cool.
I'm gonna do 2 playthroughs. I'm gonna make my dude ridiculous, like
and everything. Like Duke Nukem?
Well, I was thinking, no. I'm gonna make him skinny, tiny, with like a horse dick, just to see if it's funny. Like, I'm gonna try to make the most ridiculous character possible, and then on a second playthrough, I'll play as woman. I want to play as every variety possible. I'm not somebody who usually does that, but there's the freedom here. You can play however you want. You want to do a playthrough where you're, Commander Shepard, male Shep, femme Shep, do that. You want to do yourself, you are, exactly as you are, go ahead and do that. You want to do yourself as a female or male, if it's the opposite gender, go ahead and try that. There's enough customizability. People are saying that you can actually change your teeth, how they look.
Like, this is going to be like, I can't wait until people on Reddit start showing off their creations.
Yeah. Like a lot of the
character creation tools.
They're saying like you can spend a couple hours designing your character if you choose so.
Like, whenever I make a character in a role-playing game, specifically in Mass Effect, Blair would sit with me for half an hour doing hair and makeup and all my facial features. And I'd make my character look, that's my Shep. And obviously, whenever the import tool would change between games, I'd have to, kind of fiddle with it. But I'm looking forward to doing this with Cyberpunk, creating my perfect character. And I'm really looking forward to it. Like, ultimately, I think Game of the Year is going to come down between 3 candidates as of right now. Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah.
Probably Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah.
And The Last of Us Part 2. Those are my 3 picks.
Sure about, and the wild card might be Animal Crossing.
And the wild card will be Animal Crossing because it's sold so well. And maybe honorable mention Persona 5.
Yeah, it's a remake though.
Yeah.
So, and I don't even think it's gonna. Best RPG is going to be the hardest thing to do this year because the best games this year were RPGs.
Yeah, I think honestly, Cyberpunk will probably take it.
I think prediction wise, one thing. If it comes out past the wire, when is the cutoff date for the award show? Is it October? Is it the beginning of November? If they cut it off, it might win next year. If they don't, because I've had problems with them allowing the cutoff date within 2 weeks or so of the airing of the show. Yeah. Because that's unfair, because if a game comes out and it's at a fever pitch, it doesn't necessarily mean it has longevity.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, for example, Death Stranding, everyone's like, oh my God, it's amazing. It's a walking simulator. It's interesting, but it's a walking simulator.
It doesn't have the legs, and I'm worried about that. But if, let's say, all things considered, if it's allowed to be in contention, it's probably going to win Game of the Year.
Yeah, for sure.
RPG it probably should win it, but I think RPG will be up between Final Fantasy VII and Persona. And I think it'll be Final Fantasy VII because it is
anticipated.
The new game.
Yeah.
I believe that if they make a category, there's a possibility they should make a category for remastered or deluxe editions at this point.
Yeah.
Because that happens so frequently with every game out there now. I think Final Fantasy will win.
Although I don't know what music's going to be in Cyberpunk. I'm very curious to hear that soundtrack,
or at least sound design. It'll be Final Fantasy because every song has 5 variations depending on how you play, and it dynamically changes.
Yeah, I mean, we are spoiled this year, especially for games that have a Cyberpunk feel. Because
now here's the question: Is it good? Is it going to win Best Shooter?
I don't think so, because I was listening to Jeff Keighley talk about it, and he said it's a very slow, deliberate shooter. Okay. And my feeling for shooters, I fall between Halo and Call of Duty, and then even then I look at how the different studios develop, because a Bungie Halo is different from a 343 Halo, and an Infinity Ward Call of Duty is different from a Sledgehammer Games Call of Duty.
Now, the hardest thing to do is going to be art. Who's going to win for best art design or visuals? Because
that's tough.
It also depends too. If the cutoff date is like December 1st or something for these games, for Game Awards, there's a possibility Final Fantasy comes out on the PS5 because it has exclusivity until March. Right? Mm-hmm. I think. Well, the PS5 is going to be out, so it could be a PS5. And what happens when it comes out and it gets an update automatically for the next gen? Will that count? Or because it's going to be interesting because a lot of these games that have come out this year are getting free automatic updates. So are they going to count, how do you vote for them based on their original incarnation or their upgraded visuals? Are we going to have to separate them based on system? It's going to be a very interesting Game Awards year for sure. I think that it's going to be Cyberpunk that cleans house unless there's something dramatic that happens with it.
Yeah, I mean, Cyberpunk, I think, has the advantage of it's been in development since 2012. It's based upon an IP nobody really knows about unless you're a hardcore dork like me. And even then, I learned about it on YouTube, and I reviewed the box set, I think it was last year. So it's going to be introduced. It's going to be a very interesting thing to get people into this new IP. Final Fantasy VII has the rabid fan base and has for 25 plus years.
It's going to win, I think, for music, if anything. And they'll have to give it something because I don't know this year if it'll win for, because it is technically an exclusive game. Is it going to win for PlayStation exclusive, or will that go to Ghost of Tsushima or Last of Us?
I think Last of Us might get it because the art in that game is fantastic.
Action game might go to Ghost of Tsushima from what I've seen.
Yeah.
It's possible. Like there's it's so hard this year to pick a game, right?
Yeah,
For every category. Like very few things. Like the Switch is probably going to be one of the easier ones to pick. It's going to be Animal Crossing, and I don't know, maybe Paper Mario, but what else is there?
Yeah, I mean, there hasn't been anything announced. My guess is when they do their direct later this summer or early fall, they'll drop a surprise Mario game for holiday.
Yeah, probably.
Whoopie-doo. We'll wait and see. So
I mean, I'm super hyped for it. I'm ready to go. Do you know what system you want to buy it for yet?
I'm probably going to play it for Xbox Series X because if I'm going to play a shooter, I want to have the best controller, and because I am in the process of getting a new Xbox Elite controller right now, I'm going to buy my new Xbox controller, but I'm almost wondering if I should just wait.
You see, I have a pre-order that I pre-ordered last summer when they announced it.
Mm-hmm.
And remember when they still used to do those E3 deals on Amazon?
Yep.
So instead of $79.99 Canadian, I got it for $59 or $54, which is, cheaper. It's technically cheaper than the American price. So it's like in the States if you got it for $40.
Yeah.
So I pre-ordered that on Xbox because I had a One X already. And I'm like, okay, if I'm going to get it for that console, I may as well get it because I had heard, there's a possibility. I'm like, well, at least it should be forwards compatible. I didn't know they were going to be doing an automatic upgrade to the better version. I don't see it having a big advantage playing it on PS5, even if it has faster loading times, because they're making it multi-platform. It's not like it's going to be able to take advantage of that. So if I were to get a review copy, I'll get it for whatever system possible, but that's probably not happening. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's still up in the air with the publishing because we don't know what's going on with Warner Brothers Publishing.
Yeah.
So it's there. So I'll keep my pre-order down. I think it would go there. I think it's single player. I don't think they've announced any multiplayer aspect. So
I think they said they might talk about multiplayer next year, but for right now it's single player.
I only have the standard edition pre-order because it was crazy expensive for the better one, and it didn't really
it's just
add anything to it. And if I want a soundtrack, I'll just buy a soundtrack.
Or listen to it on Spotify or something.
Yeah, something like that. But the other big thing announced before we finish up this is there's that big announcement with Netflix and Studio Trigger. They're making an anime series.
Yeah, that'll be cool. Edge Runner coming out in 2022.
Yeah, and it's not like the Castlevania where it's like one movie or a couple parts. It's a full series.
So it's going to be cool. I mean, I'm glad more people are finding out about the Cyberpunk IP because the cool thing about Cyberpunk and the creation of Mike Pondsmith is it's different than most Cyberpunk. Most people think Shadowrun, which is elves, trolls, and chrome.
Yeah, or you think like this is the Blade Runner world. Like without being Blade Runner, it's Blade Runner with Neuromancer mixed in.
It's Blade Runner meets Neuromancer meets RoboCop in terms of ridiculous satire, because if you buy and read some of the Chrome books from Cyberpunk 2020, they'll be like, hey, you want the chain ripper arm and you've got a chainsaw for an arm because why not?
You want to get a car, you can shoot somebody in the face to get their car in front of the cops, and if the cops like you because they're from the same neighborhood as you, they'll just turn away. And it shows, and it's not, and there were people saying that they hate the corporations as well, and certain corporations hate other corporations. So if you were to grab somebody or find somebody that works for one corporation that's a rival corporation, kill them in front of people from another corporation, they'll just look the other way too.
Yeah, like it's
like,
gonna
whoa.
be it's gonna
the
be
depth in there.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fantastic time for gaming. So anyway, that's going to do it for this edition of the Prototype, as I'm sure we'll have more of these as the summer goes on. I know we've been meaning to talk with Dr. Gonzo from Nerds of the Third Power about arcade memories. So Alex will set that out hopefully before we take our break. We will be taking a little bit of a hiatus. We might put out a smaller weekly show from July 1st to the 19th. Those shows should only take about 30 minutes.
The week of the 12th or so, whether we do a regular news show or not, there will be a prototype, even if it's a shorter one.
Because on the Ubisoft presentation.
Ubisoft and Stadia are back to back.
Yeah.
So we may as well cover both.
Yeah.
Because it will so that week there may be that only thing, and we might throw a review in between the segments or something if we have something we have to get out. But the regular news, we are going to take probably a break at some point.
Yeah, so I will be taking a break for sure from the 1st till the 19th or something like that. Either way, I'm taking 2.5 weeks off, maybe 3. So anyway.
Yeah, and if we have reviews in the pipeline or things that we need to get out, we'll still get it out to you. It just won't be the regular stuff.
Yeah, so because I'm going to enjoy JRPG July. So
go right ahead.
So anyway, we will have a regular show for you on this Sunday for sure. And stay tuned for that. There's also going to be a podcast with me and Andrew Roebuck on Triassic Park, where we talk about the Tremors movie and its impact on horror movies and B-movie horror comedies as a whole. So until next time, we have been
Alex the producer.
I've been Mike the Birdman Dodd saying be excellent to each other. We'll catch you guys next time right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
Well, that's our show. All right, here's the deal. Every time you watch my show, I will send you $40.
Checks will not be honored.
You've been listening to This Week in Geek, your source for guaranteed nonsense or your money back. Tune in next week for more info on the most important things you didn't need to know. Check out our website at ThisWeekInGeek.net and subscribe to our podcast through iTunes or any podcatcher. If you'd like to comment on this episode, head over to this episode's post at ThisWeekInGeek.net and leave a comment through Facebook Connect. Follow us on Twitter at ThisWeekInGeek.net and follow our Instagram at twig_official_podcast. Social media not your thing? Send us an email at feedback@ThisWeekInGeek.net. We'll see you next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
Just when you think this show is terrible, something wonderful happens.
What?
It ends.
I have to go. Somewhere there is a crime happening.